My name is Karen Smith, and I'm 30 years old. I run a spa salon. My husband, Mark, works for a big company. They say there's a third-year affair, but I never thought Mark would follow that formula.
Happy birthday, Karen. Cheers.
To celebrate my birthday, Mark, my sister-in-law Sarah, and my brother-in-law Jake had gathered in a private room at a restaurant. But the cheerful atmosphere changed in an instant.
Happy birthday, ma'am.
Mark's mistress, Diana, burst in.
I have a wonderful present for you.
She handed me divorce papers.
They've got my signature. Be grateful.
Mark chuckled. But he won't be laughing for long. We've already made our move. Thank you. I'll submit it to the courthouse right away. I took the divorce papers and headed straight to the courthouse. They should accept divorce papers 24/7. 15 minutes later, Diana came running towards me, desperate.
Don't rush.
Diana knew the truth I had entrusted to Sarah and managed to stop my divorce from Mark. This divorce drama wouldn't have happened without the help of Mark's sister, Sarah, and his boss and brother-in-law, Jake. Without their cooperation, I wouldn't have had the resolve to go through with this. The four of us had a tradition of getting together not just for birthdays, but for any other celebrations or events.
Happy 33rd birthday, Mark. Cheers.
The birthday party started with Sarah's call as usual.
Wow, all this food looks delicious.
Most of it was made by Sarah.
Karen is bad at cooking. She didn't even know how to make soup.
That's pretty bad.
We always gather at the Williams, but it's a lot of work for Sarah. Maybe we should rent a private room at a restaurant?
Karen, you don't get it. It's a kind of family tradition, right, Mark?
Mom and Dad loved home parties. We used to gather all the time.
Yeah, sometimes even people we didn't know would show up.
After Mom passed away and Dad moved into a facility, we decided to keep gathering, even if it was just the two of us. Eventually, it went from 2 to 3 when Jake joined, and then to 4 with Karen.
But still, the story of how Sarah and Jake got together is amazing. Mark played a big role in that.
What do you mean?
I mean, Mark is so clueless and unobservant. It's amazing he played Cupid for Sarah and Jake.
I never thought Jake would fall for my sister after just one meeting. When I forgot an important document at home, my sister brought it to me, and Jake fell in love with her on the spot. I thought it was a joke.
So, the four of us ended up in close relationships. Mark's boss, Jake, married Mark's sister.
But I wasn't the Cupid for Mark and Karen. I was a customer at Karen's salon, and one day it started raining. I asked Mark to pick me up, and when he saw Karen, he fell in love at first sight. Mark and Jake are quite similar.
There are theories that say love at first sight doesn't exist, but in our family, it certainly does. Maybe men are just simple and fall in love easily? Anyway, both the Smith family and the Williams family have gotten along well, and I believe it will continue. I never doubted that.
I've always wanted to ask, aren't you and Jake planning to have kids? You've been married for 7 years. You don't work, and Jake has a good income, so you could easily raise kids.
Well, we believe it will happen if it's meant to. Neither Jake nor I are anxious about it.
We enjoy our time together. Both Jake and I love traveling, and having kids might make that harder. That's why we don't even have pets.
What about you and Mark? You've been married for 3 years. People must be expecting you to have kids soon.
Well, if it happens naturally, we'll think about it then, right?
I've been busy with work, and the timing hasn't been right.
Karen is very dedicated to training each of her employees, so they're all very skilled.
We recently started offering head spa treatments. Sarah, you should try it sometime.
It's great that Karen gives us employee discounts. It really helps.
No problem. You're like my best friend. You always listen to my complaints and give me advice.
Oh, so Karen is talking to my sister about me? LOL.
Of course, Karen and I have a whole competition of complaining about you and Jake, don't we?
When I married Mark, I gained a sister and brother all at once, having been an only child. That was the happiest part of getting married. I hoped these days would continue forever. Welcome, Ms. Diana Krall. Thank you for choosing us. May I ask how you heard about our salon?
I heard great reviews about your skills, atmosphere, and attentive service.
Thank you. Are you here for a facial today? I started the facial treatment.
Once you pass 25, it really starts showing on your skin. I used to tan all the time, but now I regret it. Your skin is so beautiful, you must have been taking care of it since your teens. Your dedication to beauty is inspiring.
Your skin isn't as bad as you say. It looks like you take good care of it, but maybe you don't pay much attention to the basics.
When I'm in a relationship, I'm super careful. But when I'm single, I party all night and often stay up all night. Smoking and drinking, all the bad stuff for skin.
I thought she sounded immature for a 25-year-old. Her job was listed as an office worker at a major company. Can she really handle that? I interact with many women daily and naturally find myself observing them. So, you're in a relationship now?
Can you tell? Yes, I'm in the greatest love of my life.
That's wonderful.
But he's married. His wife is ugly, doesn't do any housework, and he always says there's no point in being married to her. Just hearing his stories makes me feel sorry for him. He wants kids, but she won't even try. He probably married her because he works for a big company. She's a typical woman. He says he feels calm and healed when he's with me. I may not look it, but I'm good at cleaning and cooking. He fell for that unexpected domestic side of me. What do you think about affairs, Karen?
Generally, they're wrong. But I understand that falling in love can be sudden and uncontrollable.
Right? You should tell his wife to divorce him quickly. Tell her she's not needed anymore.
Divorcing the wife is a typical line cheaters use. Even if they say that to their mistress, how many actually get divorced? They usually choose their family and then cut off all contact.
What would you do if your husband was cheating?
I'm not sure.
Would you divorce him or stay in a loveless marriage?
I would probably get a divorce. It might be different if we had kids.
But your husband would never do that, right? You've only been married for 3 years. Still in the honeymoon phase? What's he like?
He's an ordinary company employee. A bit clueless and insensitive, to be honest. He's so awkward that if he were cheating, I'd find out right away.
Really? So you'd know if he was having an affair?
It wasn't common for a first-time customer to talk so openly, so it caught my attention. But while doing treatments, I often hear many stories from customers. If talking makes Diana feel better, listening is part of my job as an esthetician.
Sorry for calling you over when you're so busy.
Sarah told me she had something important to discuss, so I used my day off to visit her house.
I don't know how to say this. It's really hard to bring up.
When it came to the main topic, Sarah suddenly struggled with her words.
Stupid Mark is having an affair. It's not just an affair, he's got a mistress.
I was speechless. The thought that my husband could never was all I could think.
I heard it all from Jake. The other woman is an employee at the same company. According to Jake, she is not very good at her job and is the type who only cares about her appearance. She comes to work not to do her job, but to show off and get attention. Jake said he can't believe Mark fell for such a shallow woman.
Sarah laid it all out quickly, eager to get it off her chest.
Have you noticed anything strange about Mark lately? Karen, did you have any idea?
I hadn't noticed a thing. Coming home late wasn't unusual for him, and he never acted suspiciously.
You say Mark is clueless, but maybe you are too, Karen. At work, it's pretty obvious that Mark and his mistress are together. It's unbelievable that things at home seem normal. Mark isn't the type to lie or hide things well.
Maybe I hadn't been paying enough attention to Mark. Even though we were married, we both had jobs and rarely ate dinner together. I thought that was just our way of being a couple.
I'm not blaming you, Karen. I can't stand that my stupid brother is hurting you.
When did this start between Mark and his mistress?
Jake says it's been about 2 months. They're openly flirting at work, and it's unbearable to watch. The woman is very forward, and Mark is just lapping it up. His work performance is suffering, and it's a problem for the company.
Even after hearing this, it still doesn't feel real. Mark hasn't changed at home at all.
Jake recorded a conversation between Mark and his mistress for proof. You should listen to it.
I decided to listen to it.
Hey, everyone at the office knows about us, right? The only one clueless is your wife. Want to bet on when she'll find out?
Don't be stupid. What if she finds out and we end up divorced?
What? You don't want a divorce? Are you just playing around with me? That's horrible. I'll cry.
No, it's just that if I'm not in a favorable position, she might demand alimony. We need to plan this better. By the way, I still don't get why you chose me.
You're cute, naturally charming, never boring, and you're manly and good at your job when needed. I love that contrast.
So you're serious about our future together?
Of course, my dream is to marry you. I've never met a guy who's so perfect for me.
I guess it's all about timing for the divorce.
Don't worry, I'll tell your wife myself. She's a spa salon owner, right? I heard her family is wealthy. She can live on her own. But I need you, Mark. I can't live without you.
But you joined this company mid-career, so you must be competent.
I got in through connections. I just wanted the company name on my resume and to marry a man from a big company for a secure future.
So you set your sights on me.
Was it wrong to fall in love with you? I even asked if I could, remember?
Yeah, but I never thought someone as cute as you would go for me.
Mark, you should have more confidence. You're the first man I've ever fallen for completely and wanted to marry.
That's when it hit me. Diana Krall. I've heard that name before. That's it. She was a customer at my salon last month.
What's wrong? Did you remember something?
I told Sarah about Diana's visit to the salon.
Wow, that's the worst. She knew you were Mark's wife and was provoking you.
That explains it. Recently, my salon's website has been flooded with slanderous comments. Things like, no results, scam salon, poor skills, not worth the money, and many more. It was so persistent and malicious that I was considering a disclosure request. Now I think it might be Diana's doing. It all makes sense now. On social media reviews, she rated us 1 star, saying the staff are rude, the salon is dirty, the restroom isn't clean, and the treatments are painful and ineffective. She called it the worst salon ever.
That's a serious problem for the salon.
But from what we heard earlier, it sounds like Diana is more obsessed, and Mark seems a bit reluctant.
Still, he mentioned waiting for the right timing to divorce.
It wouldn't be surprising if he brought it up any day now, but I don't get Diana's angle. It doesn't seem like she genuinely loves Mark.
There's one thing Jake mentioned that clicked. Mark is set to be promoted to chief manager soon. That comes with a pay raise and faster promotions. Diana might be aiming for that stability by marrying Mark. And don't forget, you and Mark are planning to buy a house soon. She might be after that too.
But my dad is covering most of the cost for the house. It's not Mark's achievement.
Exactly.
As I left Sarah's house, my anger towards Mark started to build. I was also mad at myself for not noticing anything. Until today, I trusted Mark completely and never doubted him.
I'm home.
Mark seemed the same as always.
Man, I'm tired.
He loosened his tie and sank into the sofa. I went to the entrance, kept his shoes clean, and took his bag to the bedroom. This was our usual routine. In this flow, there was no hint of him bringing up divorce. Mark, is there something you want to tell me? If so, I'll start the conversation.
Oh, did you hear from Sarah through Jake about my promotion to chief manager?
No, something more important.
What could be more important than my promotion? I thought you'd be happier. Karen, you can be so cold. I'm already 33, you know? Jake got promoted to section chief at 37 and is on the fast track. I can't fall behind. Jake moved from chief manager to section chief, then to department manager. I'm on the same track. I'll have business trips abroad too, so you need to support me as my wife.
Wait a minute, Mark. Did you just tell me to support you as your wife? How can you say that so casually? Don't you actually want a divorce? Mark looked a bit flustered.
What are you talking about? Did Jake tell you something?
His nervousness was evident. It showed he felt guilty about what he was doing. Isn't it well known at your office? About you and Diana. You're openly flirting, so it was only a matter of time before I heard about it. Or were you so caught up in flirting that you didn't even think about that?
So it was Jake. Well, no point hiding it. Yes, I'm seeing Diana.
Mark took a defiant stance. At some point, my clueless husband had learned how to calculate and create favorable situations for himself. He was ready for battle. You want a divorce from me and to marry Diana, right?
I haven't decided that strictly, but since I'm seeing Diana, that might be a future hope.
Mark was really unclear. Clueless, naturally naive, and indecisive. These could be strengths or weaknesses, but right now they just made me angry. So then, you're half-heartedly seeing both me and Diana? This isn't a harem. Don't talk like you have a main wife and a concubine.
You have a way with words, Karen.
Did you know Diana is harassing me? She's been spreading bad reviews about my salon.
Harassment? What kind?
She's posting negative comments about the salon. Because of that, we've had inquiries and cancellations.
Do you have proof that it's Diana?
No, which is why I'm consulting a lawyer.
A lawyer? Isn't that overkill?
Of course not. I have a duty to protect my business. If it turns out Diana is behind it, I'll take proper action.
Wow, you're really acting high and mighty for just a salon owner. You've always been like this, Karen. Your family's wealth funded the salon, right? Yet you act like it's your achievement. Everyone says Karen is an independent, admirable businesswoman, but you're just sheltered by your family. People like us, who are slaves to our companies, have it much tougher. You don't get that. Talking to Diana is easier. It's less stressful. I don't have to pretend with her. And about the house, you asked your dad without consulting me. I think it's too early, but you went ahead anyway. Is it pride or vanity? I work for a decent company, but this makes me feel like I'm just following your family's orders. You don't even realize it, but you look down on me.
Hearing Mark's true feelings, I started to brace myself for the inevitable divorce. There's no way I could spend decades with a man who cheats after just 3 years of marriage. Maybe Mark and I had different views of the world from the start.
Next week is your birthday, right? I told Sarah we should celebrate as usual with the 4 of us.
What was he planning? Even with the breakup countdown started, Mark still wanted to proceed with my birthday party.
Since it's a lot for Sarah to prepare each time, I reserved a private room at a restaurant this time.
I immediately sensed he was up to something. Mark's face always gives him away. And so, the day came when my birthday party began in the private room of a restaurant. Diana burst in.
I have a wonderful present for you.
She handed me divorce papers.
They've got my signature. Be grateful.
I see. This was Mark's plan. But I was prepared for this. I had already confided in Sarah about it. All right, I'll go submit these divorce papers to the courthouse right now.
Right now?
Marriage and divorce papers can be submitted 24/7. Thank you for the wonderful gift, Diana. I headed straight to the courthouse. I felt surprisingly calm. 15 minutes later, Diana came running looking panicked.
Wait,
I stopped at her words. Mark was also chasing after her. I realized that Sarah must have passed my message to them.
Diana, wait up.
It seemed Mark had followed Diana. Of course, he did. This must have been a shock for Diana.
Please listen to me.
He was out of breath and struggling. He must have run hard to catch up to Diana.
Karen, please wait before submitting.
It was like an association game. Diana telling me to wait, and Mark telling Diana to wait.
Mark, is it true? You had a secret child and never told me? And you're making arrangements to take him in? You expect me to suddenly become the mother of a 10-year-old? No way. You kept such a big secret from me and thought I'd just accept it? Don't take me for a fool.
I didn't plan to keep it from you forever. I just couldn't find the right time to tell you.
Of course you couldn't tell me because you knew I'd never agree. You can play house by yourself. Karen accepted it, so maybe you shouldn't divorce her after all. I absolutely refuse to do that. I have no intention of raising your child. I don't need a man who deceives me.
Mark had no response.
And you kept your debts a secret too. How many more secrets are there? These are huge things to hide. Divorce Karen and marry me with all these secrets? Unbelievable. What do you think I am? And didn't Karen's father pay off your debt? Now you expect us to deal with that too? How cruel are you, Karen?
Now she turned her anger towards me. We're getting divorced, so of course. You've only paid back $1,000 in 3 years, and nothing in the last 6 months. My dad is rich, so he doesn't mind small payments, but he was angry at your lack of sincerity. And did Mark tell you he'd buy a house together? Most of the down payment is from my dad. Mark might have bragged about it, but he doesn't have as much money as you think. Mark was visibly shrinking.
Boasting about wealth to this extent is beyond annoying.
Diana, you're with Mark because he works for a big company and you feel secured, right? Well, go ahead and marry him. I'm just here to submit these divorce papers. I'll also get you a marriage license so you two can tie the knot.
Diana, you understand, right? I can't raise a child alone. I've never done housework or cooked. You're good at all that, right? I'm not asking you to be a mother. My son is already 10, not a baby. He's quiet and won't be troublesome. He's easy to raise.
What? You're treating me like a housekeeper. Just because I'm good at housework doesn't mean you can dump all responsibilities on me. Mark, you never take responsibility for your words, and you've been reprimanded by clients for that. You never learn and don't try to change. The person you should be stopping isn't me, it's Karen.
No, no, no. I don't want Mark either. Diana, you came to my salon to provoke me and spread bad reviews out of jealousy. You must really want Mark to do that. Well, you got your wish, with a secret child and debts included. Diana, you'll have to take responsibility too. With that, I walked away from the pointless argument. I went to the courthouse and submitted the divorce papers.
You're divorced from Mark now, but I'd still love for you to treat me like a sister.
Things had settled down, so I visited Kate's house to catch up. Of course. I want to stay close with you and Jake.
My foolish brother really caused you a lot of trouble.
What's Mark up to now? I went back to my parents' house, so I haven't heard any rumors.
Well, he did something unbelievable. Honestly, I wish I could crawl into a hole. Mark was dumped hard by Diana. Well, that's no surprise. Then Mark became a stalker. Diana got so scared she quit her job. Mark even tracked her to her parents' house and called her relatives. The police had to get involved. Of course, he was fired, and he couldn't pay the rent for the apartment you two lived in, so he got evicted. We had to take him in for a while, but even we couldn't keep supporting him. It's his own fault. What have you been up to, Karen?
I'm planning to sue Diana for defamation. When we requested disclosure of the Essence posts, we found out they were from Diana's IP address. I'm getting ready for the legal battle.
By the way, Karen, I saw you in a magazine, didn't I?
Yes, I expanded the salon into a franchise, and the business is growing. People started calling me a successful businesswoman, so I gave a little interview.
I'm so glad something good happened for you. God really does see everything.
Even though my marriage lasted only 3 years, having Kate as a sister is a blessing. I feel refreshed and ready to start anew.
My name is Christine. I've been married for 20 years, and my husband, Richard, came back with his mistress and their secret child.
I'm cutting ties with you and the kids. Sign this.
These were the words Richard said when he returned. In front of me was a paper labeled Divorce Papers. Suddenly, he brought a woman and even a child, even if he says divorce. My heart pounded loudly, showing intense agitation. You can't just say something like that out of the blue. You're the vice president, remember?
Yeah, I'm the vice president. There's no law saying a vice president can't get a divorce. Emma is already in high school. You've raised both kids well, so from here on, I'll live as James' dad.
Emma is our second daughter. She's 17, and our first daughter, Amy, is 19. He thinks it's fine since we've raised them this far. James?
This kid here, he's a boy, and he'll be the future president.
This child, is he yours?
Yeah, that's right. You only gave me girls, but Nancy gave me a boy. I never thought a boy could be this cute. I was sick of a house full of girls.
How could you say such a thing?
I wanted an heir. Only a boy can be my successor.
How old is he?
He's 5.
How long have you been with her?
Over 10 years. You never noticed. But while living with you, I've been trying hard as Nancy's husband too.
Richard says I didn't notice, but I knew about his affair. For 10 years, Richard didn't come home. Even when he did occasionally come back, he would look at me with a displeased expression and throw his laundry at me.
Do the laundry.
That was the extent of our conversation. No matter what I said or asked, he never gave a proper response, only saying what he wanted to say. Then, as if his business was done, he would leave again. In recent years, he had stopped coming back altogether. Does he really think there is a wife who wouldn't suspect infidelity? I did suspect, and I even hired a detective to investigate. I knew he had a woman. But I couldn't leave him because Richard was the vice president. 20 years ago, when he proposed, I introduced him to my parents. Then my dad strongly opposed our marriage. He said Richard wasn't fit to be a president. But I was blinded by love. So I couldn't accept what my dad said. I couldn't understand the meaning of his words. I was the one who chose Richard. I knew him better than anyone else. What did my dad know about him? I harbored such selfish thoughts. Eventually, my dad relented. His condition for allowing the marriage was that Richard would take over his company. Since there were no boys in my family, my dad decided that my husband would be the next president and gave Richard that condition. Richard was happy to become the president and said he would do his best. Then we got married. For a while after we got married, he worked hard, making efforts to become the president. Seeing him work so hard made me think my dad was satisfied. But that was only at first. Gradually, Richard developed a habit of playing around, and after our 2 children were born, he preferred being out rather than at home, and eventually stopped coming home altogether. As the future president, he had money. With his credit cards, he spent money like water. I couldn't reveal this to my dad, so I suffered alone. But as Richard neglected his work and dumped everything on the employees, complaints started to arise, and the employees began to lose their motivation. I was the one who had to cover for him. My dad, being his daughter's husband, couldn't be too harsh, but he was bitter about Richard's behavior. Occasionally, he'd say, "He can't be a president like that," but he didn't say much more to me. Around this time, I started regretting my marriage. I could endure if it was just my suffering, but it was also causing pain to my beloved dad and the important employees. The thought of divorce began to surface. But I didn't go through with it because of our children. Do I have the right to take their dad away from them? If we divorced, they'd be fatherless. Wouldn't that make them unhappy too? This inner conflict tormented me for years. Without caring about my suffering, Richard eventually stopped coming to the company. He didn't work at all. He didn't care about the company. But as the vice president, he still got his salary. I kept telling myself that he'd return to his old self and decided to hold the company together until he did. But in the end, divorce. If he divorces me, he'd lose his title as president and be jobless. Naturally, he wouldn't get his salary. Does he understand that? Maybe he's doing some other job. If that's the case, then it's not my concern. But what about our kids? Losing their dad like this? If their parents divorce at such a sensitive age, wouldn't that hurt them? At least until they graduate from college.
Hey, what are you thinking about? I've worked hard for you until now. I've done my duty as a parent. You have no complaints, do you? Sign the divorce papers.
Richard's yelling made my mind go blank. When I looked at the kids, my eyes must have shown worry and pity. Then the kids spoke up.
Mom, if he wants a divorce, then get a divorce. Yeah, just divorce him. Dad says he raised us well, but who do you think really raised us? He was hardly ever home when we were growing up. Grandpa was the one who took his place. Grandpa and Grandma used to come with us to the amusement park and the zoo instead of my dad. There was nothing wrong with not having a dad.
What did you say?
He's useless, so you should just divorce him.
But I can't take your dad away from you too.
Take him away? He left on his own. We never thought of him as a dad anyway. Thinking you're taking away our dad is just your delusion. We don't want a useless parent. Even Grandpa says he's not fit to be the president. Grandma always says she wants you to divorce Dad too. We feel the same way. Having him as a dad is just embarrassing.
You brats. I've worked hard so you could live.
How did you work hard? You never went to the company, just a vice president in name. When you did come home, you only made Mom suffer. You never even talked to us. If you claim to be our parent, can you tell us our birthdays? Do you know how old I am? Do you know which college I attend?
Well, even if I don't know those things, I'm still your dad.
That's just a biological function. If it was just about creating kids, a sperm bank would do. And a sperm bank would provide better genes. Exactly. But we have Mom's genes, and it's good that we don't resemble you. Thanks to that, I got into Harvard on my first try.
Harvard? Really?
Yes, that's right.
You're that smart.
I take after Mom. I'm aiming for Harvard too.
Aiming is one thing, but getting in is another. Just because Amy got in on her first try doesn't mean Emma will.
She's always at the top of her class. Don't pretend to know things you don't. I never thought he would say such things about our child, and I felt my anger rising.
Mom, let's just leave him. We don't need someone so useless. I don't need him either. Having him as a dad is nothing but a stain.
What do you think a father is?
Richard got angry at being mocked by our kids, but it was Nancy, his mistress, who stopped him.
Richard, it's fine. They're saying they'll let us be. Once you're gone, they'll realize how valuable a father's presence is, whether they like it or not.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And the company will be fine with Mom around, right? After all, you're just a vice president in name, doing nothing but spending money.
You really are just kids. You don't know anything.
What?
A company is a man's world. Women can't become presidents. Even if a woman becomes president, the surroundings are all men. That's why your grandfather said I should take over after our marriage. The company has been running smoothly because of me.
Dad, you really don't know anything. If the company ran fine without a vice president who didn't show up or work, then it means women can do the job just fine. It means even a playboy like you can manage.
Well, that's...
Who do you think has been keeping the company running while you were away? Grandpa, the president, and Mom acting as vice president. The employees rely on Mom now. With Mom, the company is doing just fine.
That's ridiculous. No, I won't step down as vice president, even if we divorce. You were able to act as vice president because of me.
That's not true. Nobody in the company respects a ghost vice president who does nothing.
Both kids, who work part-time at my dad's company, know the internal situation well. They know the employees work confidently without the vice president around.
Having someone like you around only makes things harder for the employees. Exactly. The part-time ladies think Mom is the vice president. No employee at that company respects someone who doesn't work.
Stop acting like you know everything.
We do know. Obviously. We work there. I've been working there for 4 years and Emma for 2. We know the company way better than you do.
This can't be.
It's true. These kids are valuable assets.
See, you don't know anything.
After I graduate from college, I've decided to work for the company.
I'm going to become a lawyer and be the company's in-house attorney. I won't help if you take over the company. But if Mom becomes the president, I'll fully support her.
Why would you do that?
It's obvious. You sowed the seeds for this outcome yourself.
I'm glad it worked out so well.
There's no way you can do it. There's no way you women can protect the company. I'm going to be the president.
I'm filing for divorce. With that, I picked up a pen and decisively began signing the divorce papers. After signing, I took a deep breath, determined to end 20 years of suffering, and handed the divorce papers to Richard. Is this good enough for you?
Oh, you finally decided to divorce. Now, you all need to get out of here.
You're the one who needs to leave.
What are you talking about? This house is mine.
This house was bought by my dad. The title is in his name.
That can't be true.
Yes, it is. When he bought this house, my dad didn't trust you, so he made it a condition that the title be in his name.
But you told me it was in my name.
That was just to appease your ego. But my dad didn't trust you and said he wouldn't transfer the title until he saw you were trustworthy. He thought you might sell it off suddenly. I didn't believe you'd do that, but it seems my dad wasn't entirely wrong.
I wouldn't sell it off.
But now you're trying to kick us out. It's the same thing. This is my dad's house, so you're the one who has to leave.
Damn it. How could this happen?
Richard, what's going on? Isn't this house yours? That's what you said.
Yes, that's what I said.
Then hurry up and kick them out.
The thing is,
Weren't you listening?
Or maybe you just don't get it?
You're Nancy, right? The deed to this house belongs to my dad. So now that we're divorced, it's Richard who has to leave. Do you understand?
Why? Richard said this house was his.
That's a misunderstanding on Richard's part.
That's not fair. Richard, didn't you say this house was yours?
well, yes. But it seems I was mistaken.
This can't be happening.
But it's okay. I'm the next president. No matter what they say, I'll be the president.
Are you serious? Since we're divorced, you'll have to leave the company too.
What are you talking about? I'm the vice president. How can you, as the acting vice president, decide that? That's impossible.
Don't you remember the condition when we got married? If you marry, you take over the company. That was the deal, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, since we're divorced, you don't have to take over the company.
Not taking over the company means I can still take over if I want.
That's how you think. But since we're divorced, it's none of my concern anymore. What do you think the board will say? Do you think they'll keep someone who hasn't been working? They won't be that lenient.
This can't be happening.
The only reason you got paid without working was because you were my husband. Now that you're not, the company will save a lot of money by not paying unnecessary expenses.
No, that's wrong. I'm going to be the president. How can they just fire me like that? That's impossible.
If you're just a ghost, it's better that you're gone. And there's no way my dad would want you as president.
But the president said, a man has to be the president.
There's a slight difference there. It's not just any man. It has to be a capable man. You neither work nor have the motivation. The only reason you had free reign was because you were my husband. My dad, the president, has repeatedly said you're no good. I was the one stopping him. I kept asking him to look at the long term, believing you'd return to your old self.
What is happening? So Richard can't be the president after all?
Exactly.
Then what about his salary? He got paid without working before, so it'll be the same now, right?
Of course not. If he's not the vice president anymore, he won't be getting his salary.
The only reason he was able to be the vice president was because he was married to Mom.
Exactly. My dad tolerated you only because he was my husband.
But if he wasn't around, the company wouldn't run, right? Even if Richard didn't come to the office, it was because he was listed as the vice president, right? Tell me that's true.
Yeah, I thought so too.
You've been feeding Nancy lies. The company ran just fine with my dad and me, even without Richard. I kept hoping he'd realize his responsibilities, and I didn't want to take the kid's dad away, so I endured. In other words, the company can operate perfectly well without him.
No, he can't lose the presidency.
Yes, he can't be the president, nor the vice president. He is no longer needed.
If I'm gone, who will be the president?
I will be the president.
Why you? If he's not the president, how will we live? I never heard anything about losing his salary. That means no job.
Oh, isn't he working somewhere else? He never came to the office, so he wasn't just playing around every day, right?
He told me he didn't need to go to the office because he was so high up. So, we always played poker together.
Oh, so that's why the credit card bills were so high. Well, you can say goodbye to that life. And since we're divorcing, I'm claiming alimony and child support. Nancy, that includes you.
Why should I have to pay?
Because you broke up our family. It's only fair.
But you're becoming the president. You'll be rich. Why do you need alimony and child support?
That's a separate issue.
That's ridiculous. If you're rich, you don't need money.
No, Nancy. It's fine because we have James.
What?
As long as we have James, we're set.
Oh, right. We have James.
What about this kid?
My boy is already a star. You've probably seen him. He's in every drama now.
Oh, he's that super popular child actor.
Exactly.
He has jobs lined up every day. Even today, he has a drama shoot after this. So, even if I'm not the president, we'll be fine.
But if you rely on that, you'll be in big trouble soon enough.
What trouble?
Child actors grow up and often lose work. Many child stars end up fading away. Don't you know that?
That's true. Child actors can't stay on top forever.
That's not true. This kid is a gold mine. He's got tons of jobs lined up.
Yeah, he'll definitely keep being popular. Who cares about being the president?
With that, they grabbed the divorce papers and stormed out of my house. A few years passed, and James remained a popular child actor. His name was everywhere. There wasn't a day when James' name wasn't on TV. However, as he grew older, his popularity waned, and other child actors began to take his place. Falling from grace, James learned to enjoy playing with his friends, and eventually cried about not wanting to work anymore, disappearing from the television world. Several years later, my ex-husband Richard came to visit. Oh, it's been a while. I haven't seen James on TV recently. How's he doing?
Well, as he got older, other child actors started getting the jobs. No matter how many auditions he went to, he couldn't get any roles. With more free time, James started saying he wanted to play with his friends. He started going out to play after school,
That's just a normal life.
It might be fine for James, but it wasn't fine for us. We managed to get him a role, but by then he was crying about not wanting to work. We took him to the set, but he kept crying, so he was eventually dropped from the role. After that, nobody wanted to use him.
Oh, just like his dad. Loves to play, huh? Definitely your genes.
This is no laughing matter. We can't live like this. So, we started a child actor channel on YouTube.
Well, that's quite an effort.
At first, it was fun. He didn't mind filming, but then he got bored with it.
Well, he is your kid.
We kept forcing him to do it, but his expressions got darker. We had to reshoot videos multiple times. And then came the flood of negative comments saying his eyes looked dead, that we were forcing him, that we were the worst parents exploiting our kid for money. In the end, we were accused of running a child abuse channel on social media. Nancy even got scared to upload videos. We had to shut the channel down.
Really?
With that, we lost our source of income.
Why don't you make your own videos? Any channel would do, right?
That's true, but I tried a few times, but none of them were hits. It just cost money without bringing in any income.
That sounds tough.
So, can you give me a job?
What?
No more child acting. No more YouTube. I need to work.
What about Nancy?
Because of the backlash from the YouTube channel, she can't go out anymore.
Why? Nancy didn't show her face, right?
Somehow, they found out about us and uploaded our photos. Even when we walk around town, people call us abusive parents. They even came to our house and threw trash on our doorstep. We went to the police, but the harassment didn't stop. We had to move, and now we're just waiting for the rumors to die down.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's really tough. I need to find a way to get by. Please, give me a job.
Why don't you look for a job elsewhere? Even if you worked at our company, the employees who know about your past wouldn't be happy.
You can handle that as the vice president.
I'm the president.
What? You're the president now?
Yes, I've been the president for quite a while.
Really? That's why you have this big office building.
Yes, it seems I can manage being president.
Even better then. As the president, you can hire me. You can afford to pay a high salary.
No, that's not possible. My dad was furious back then. He's retired now, but he still has a lot of influence.
But I know this company well. I'd be an asset right away.
I doubt that. The way we do things has changed a lot. Even if it were the same, you wouldn't be able to handle it. You never did more than half-hearted work.
I can do anything.
It's good to have confidence, but too much will make you disliked.
I'm not overconfident. I'm telling the truth.
How old are you?
52.
At 52, you're going to relearn everything from scratch? A humble person might manage, but someone like you can't.
Why do you think that?
Because I know you.
I'm not the same as I was before. Please, I'm begging you. Making my son a child actor has made things really difficult.
What's so difficult? Being called abusive parents.
It's not just that. Our son was spoiled during his child acting days and started to believe he was special. It showed, and he got shunned and bullied by his friends. As a result, he developed mental health issues and now has to go to the hospital, but we can't afford the medical bills.
Oh, that's tough.
He's become reclusive. Nancy has also been depressed because of being labeled an abusive parent.
And you?
I don't know about me. I can't tell.
I see.
Even if I'm not well, I don't have money for a hospital visit, so I can't do anything. You need help, right? I can be useful.
We have enough help. Amy is currently learning the ropes to take over for me. She'll be an excellent president. Emma is studying to become a lawyer. With those two and many other talented people, we don't need unproductive employees. Fewer, more capable people mean we save on unnecessary expenses.
So, I'm the only one who's unlucky?
I don't know if it's luck, but you brought this on yourself by using your child as a tool. You could have become president if you'd done your job properly, but you threw that chance away. This is the result.
Don't say that. Help me out. I'll work hard for you.
For me? Then go back 28 years and start over, if you could do that. But I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Don't say that, please.
I called the security guard and ordered him to escort Richard out. After our divorce, I claimed alimony and child support, which Richard paid in a lump sum. Back then, James was a popular child actor, so Richard was overconfident. But Richard and Nancy didn't foresee this future and eventually became penniless. Richard tried to find a job, went to many interviews, but no one would hire him. He even tried to get welfare, but that also failed. After much struggle, desperate and with no options left, Richard turned to illegal work. He got a job that involved submerging bodies in a pool, which was highly paid, and he contacted me to brag about it. But we knew it would lead to more trouble. As we predicted, Richard started having terrible nightmares every night. It's hard to believe anyone could mentally cope with that kind of job. Richard always hated the occult. His mental state quickly deteriorated, and he seemed to need hospitalization. However, he couldn't accept that he was unwell, insisting, "There's nothing wrong with me," and refused to go to the hospital. His life became even more difficult, and eventually, Nancy left him. Now, he stays in a dark room, muttering to himself, never going outside, and barely scraping by with some home-based work. As for me, my company has been growing rapidly with the help of my children. Sometimes people try to take advantage of me because I'm a female president, but Emma, now a lawyer, always steps in to help. My eldest, Amy, is now on the board of directors and works hard for the company. My dad, reassured, has retired and is enjoying traveling with my mom. He used to say that only a man could be president, but now he's proud of our female-led company. Thanks to this, we enjoy peaceful and happy days.
I'm currently at my husband's childhood home where he grew up. Nobody lives here anymore, and we live elsewhere. The house is run down, and it's obvious no one has lived here for decades. It's straight out of a ghost story. I step onto the property with a purpose in mind. After searching thoroughly for over an hour, one area looks oddly out of place. A part of the garden is inexplicably paved with concrete. There's nothing else that seems unusual. I approach it, holding my breath. Could it be here? After getting someone to break the concrete, I swing the shovel I had prepared. The ground hasn't been used for years. The soil is compacted and extremely hard. Sweat breaks out with every swing. Before I know it, the sun that was high in the sky is now setting. Maybe that's enough for today. Thinking it's my last swing, the shovel snaps into the soil with a crack. I quickly pull out the shovel and start digging desperately with my hands. Please let it be a lie. Please let it be a lie. I wish to myself. But a few minutes later, I let out an involuntary cry. My name is Sally, and I'm just an ordinary office worker in the region. Life has been uneventful. I work as usual and go home as usual, but I'm content with my daily life. Since I've been living alone since graduating from high school, I don't speak to anyone if I don't go out on weekends. I've always loved talking, so these silent weekends are torture for me. Being chatty is my only talent and passion. Today, as usual, I finish my morning tasks. To take a lunch break, I talk to the guy next to me. All right, Justin, let's grab some lunch.
Is it noon already? I just have a bit more to do on this task. Well, I can finish it this afternoon.
Justin yawns and stretches in his chair. Justin has been my closest friend since we were new hires. We started talking a lot because we sat next to each other during training. The trainers even noticed us and paired us up whenever they could. I've never had a boyfriend, so I guess I'm not very resistant to romance. At one point, I even thought, could this be fate? But I heard during training that Justin has had a girlfriend since high school. My romantic notions ended in 4 days during the training period. Since then, I've just treated him like any other colleague. That's why, in the 3 years since we met, we've never gone out for drinks or outings after work or on weekends. It wouldn't be right to his girlfriend, and I don't want to cause any misunderstandings. Justin gets up from his chair.
All right, let's go.
He heads towards the office exit as if to say he'll leave me behind if I don't hurry. I follow him to the cafeteria. Our company has a cafeteria, and around this time, it fills up with people from the entire building. Today is no different, bustling as usual. I pick a chicken bowl, and Justin chooses a noodle dish with vegetable. We sit facing each other.
Listen to this. I've been seeing ghosts in my neighborhood recently. But here's the funny thing.
Yeah. Justin seems to have a sixth sense. I can't see ghosts at all, so I find his stories hard to believe. I'm tired of hearing about them every time. After Justin finishes his story, I try to change the subject. Hey Justin, what's been going on with your girlfriend lately? I haven't heard anything about her. Justin, who was slurping his noodles vigorously, suddenly stopped moving. I tilted my head in curiosity. Then, after chewing his noodles, he turned to me with a somber expression. Seeing his indescribable look, I grimaced.
We broke up.
I had a hunch but thought to myself, I knew it, and looked up at the sky. Though not the sky but ceiling, actually. I turned back to face Justin. He told me that it started with small misunderstandings. Differences in lifestyle, ways of thinking, stuff like that. The breakup wasn't recent. It happened 2 months ago. Justin said he wasn't bothered by it anymore, but as soon as I asked, he began to spill everything. Well, they had been together for over 4 years, so I guess 2 months isn't enough to heal a heart. Maybe talking about it helped him feel a bit better? When we headed back to work that afternoon, Justin seemed a bit more dignified. From that day on, we grew suddenly closer. I found myself rekindling feelings for Justin that I had forgotten. I went all out and confessed my feelings to him. Justin, still nursing his emotional wounds, told me, I'm not in the mood to date anyone right now, and he turned me down several times. But I kept pushing, and eventually, Justin gave in, and we started dating. Our relationship turned out to be really good. We never had any major fights, and when we reached the 5-year mark, we got married. We were both in our mid-20s and didn't have much money. We decided to save for our future children instead of having a wedding. Still, I felt we needed to make a formal announcement, so I suggested we go and greet Justin's mother formally, which is why we visited his family home today. His mother, Sarah, welcomed us warmly when we got my in-laws' house.
Welcome, Sally.
It wasn't far from where we lived, but it had been a while since we visited, so I was a bit nervous. Detached houses are really nice, I remarked as we walked down the hallway. I remember learning about a year into our relationship that Justin was raised by a single mom, so it didn't feel odd that Sarah lived alone. Sitting in the living room, we formally announced our marriage. Sarah was thrilled. That's wonderful. Then we spent the time chatting about everything from Justin's elementary school days to high school events. Justin looked a bit awkward the whole time. As we reminisced, it had gotten quite dark outside, so we left my in-laws' house. Justin and I both loved kids. We had been saving for our future children even before we got married. But it had been hard to conceive, and we were almost giving up when I felt unwell recently and went to the doctor, only to find out I was pregnant. It had been 3 years since we greeted Sarah with our marriage. Of course, both Justin and I were overjoyed. When we told Sarah, who knew our circumstances, she cried with happiness. We didn't know the baby's gender yet, but we started thinking of names and preparing baby items like cribs. We suddenly became very busy.
If anything happens to me,
Justin had taken out a substantial life insurance policy on himself. People become parents like this, huh? Watching Justin, I was impressed. I thought I needed to do my best too, and struggled every day. About a year later, on a certain day,
all right,
said my husband, now changed his cloth into an athletic wear, heading towards the front door. I followed him to the entrance, carrying our daughter, Lucy.
I'll be back soon.
Putting on his running shoes and looking back at me. Take care, see you soon.
Sure thing.
He nodded and ran off on his usual running route. Before our daughter was born, I used to run with him. It's a scenic route that goes around the park at the midpoint and around our neighborhood, a route that even I, as a woman, could easily complete in an hour and a half. But that day, he didn't return after 2 hours, nor after 3. Usually, he would be back in less than an hour. He typically leaves his cell phone and wallet at home when he goes running. So there was no way he could have made a detour. I even called his mother's house to check, but he hadn't stopped by there either. At this point, even I, who usually don't worry too much, started to feel anxious and irritated. Where on earth did you go? Come back soon. While soothing Lucy, all I could do was wait. Justin, when you get back, you're in for a lecture, I muttered with a slight laugh, trying to dispel my own anxiety. Glancing at the clock, it was now 9 p.m. The sun had long set, and darkness filled the view outside the window. Dinner, which had been laid out on the table, had gone completely cold. Regaining a bit of composure from seeing the time, I hurried to the police station with Lucy still in my arms to file a missing person report. I called his mother's house a second time just in case, but he hadn't returned there. My voice sounded tired.
It's tough being alone, isn't it? You must be exhausted from worrying too much. Why don't you stay over at my place tonight?
Sarah spoke kindly over the phone. I went back home once, posted a note on the front door for Justin, and then headed to his mother's house. However, the next day came and went without any word from my husband or the police. Unable to just sit still, I left Lucy with my mother-in-law, Sarah, and searched all over town. Police stations, hospitals, acquaintances, neighbors. I asked everyone. I've been searching everywhere. Where did you go, Justin? The thought that something might have happened to him crossed my mind as one possibility. That's why I covered all the local news since he disappeared. Despite knowing it was a nuisance, I even went to the newspaper publisher. Still, everyone just shook their heads, and I couldn't get any information. A month passed without any sign of Justin. Since then, both Sarah and I have been running around town gathering information, but to no avail. Not knowing where Justin is or what he's doing, we were both exhausted. If he's alive, I hope he's living happily somewhere, I thought, but both Sarah and I knew he wasn't someone who would just disappear without a word. Are we never going to find any clue, never see Justin again?
That's not true. He's not that fragile.
Sarah reassured me with a slightly trembling voice. Deep down, she must want to express her own fears. Seeing how strong Sarah was trying to be, I felt truly sorry.
Well, maybe Lucy can stay with me until she starts elementary school. It must be tough for you alone, Sally.
Honestly, I was filled with anxiety about the future, and I thought I might as well stay with Sarah for a while. After some thought, I decided to accept her offer. Thank you so much. She nodded with a smile. I guess she was just as anxious.
Can I discuss one more thing while we're on the subject? It's not exactly the best time to bring it up, but...
Her serious expression made me serious too.
Actually, I'm not Justin's biological mother. I'm just the one who raised him.
What, you mean? I couldn't hide my shock at this sudden revelation. Justin's biological mother was Sarah's sister, Emily. Emily had been a free spirit from a young age, often causing trouble for those around her. Even as an adult, her personality didn't change much. She was always true to herself. In high school, Emily began to hang out with a wrong crowd. Her entire personality changed, and getting involved in theft and assault became the norm. The police were always on her case, and it wasn't unusual for her to be detained. Emily got pregnant at 19, largely because she was out drinking every day despite being a minor. Apparently, even Emily herself doesn't know who the father is.
Emily probably didn't want to have Justin. That's why I took him in.
One Thanksgiving Day, after not showing up since graduating high school, Emily showed up with Justin to visit. The relatives were shocked, saying, "Is this that Emily?" But they quickly accepted and doted on Justin. Then, suddenly, Emily shouted and threw Justin against the wall. Sarah had to restrain an agitated Emily and tend to Justin's injuries. That's when Sarah noticed bruises on his arms. Upon further inspection, she found bruises all over his body, indicating that Justin was being routinely abused by Emily.
It was tough after that. Imagine, a single woman who's never had a boyfriend suddenly becomes the mother of a 5-year-old.
Sarah said with a wry smile. Thanks to Sarah, Justin, who had been looking gloomy, gradually started to show a happier and brighter face. Justin thinks of you as his mother, Sarah. I'm sure he was happy with you.
That's comforting to hear.
Sarah smiled, but a question arose in my mind. Why did you decide to tell me this story now? Sarah's face turned serious again.
Actually, Emily visited my house the day before Justin disappeared, even though we hadn't seen each other for years.
As I listened quietly, thinking things over, Sarah continued.
So I've been thinking maybe Emily has something to do with Justin's disappearance. I've been focusing on relatives this past month.
Did you find anything? Sarah shook her head.
I even checked the family home just in case. Nothing.
The family home. Isn't this the family home? Sarah explained that there's another house where she and Justin were raised, separate from this one. Curious, I asked for the address of that house. The next day, I went there to see if I could find anything. But my search turned up nothing and ended in vain. 5 years have passed since then, with no leads. Our daughter, who was very young back then, is now a grade schooler. Last year, when she started elementary school, we officially began living with Sarah. We'd been sort of cohabiting since my husband's disappearance, and honestly, her help with housework and childcare has been a godsend. When Sarah suggested we live together, I had no reason to refuse, so we made it official. My daughter, who adores her grandmother, was thrilled. Our life changed on a parents' day at her school. After class, we walked home together. But that day, I felt like taking a little detour. Let's take a different route home today, I suggested, and we veered off the usual path onto a small side street. Then, amidst the fields, I saw a house that looked familiar. Is that? As we got closer, I realized it was my mother-in-law's childhood home. Wow. It was already in disrepair when we visited 5 years ago, but now it looked even more derelict, as if it could collapse at any moment. This is your father's real childhood home. She might get confused if I told her that. As we were about to walk past without stopping, my daughter suddenly stopped, tugging at my hand.
Daddy is there.
I was stunned by her remark. What? I exclaimed, looking around, but there was no sign of my husband or anyone else. There's no one there. But my daughter turned to me with a serious look.
Daddy is in that house,
she insisted, pointing at my mother-in-law's house. Startled, I questioned her. Are you seeing Daddy's ghost? She nodded. Apparently, my daughter has had a sense for spirits since she started speaking, often saying she could see people where there was no one. I was initially skeptical, but when I mentioned it to Sarah, she quickly resolved my doubts. I remembered Justin used to talk about seeing ghosts too. It seems that, like my daughter, Justin had a unique sensitivity from a young age. I remembered thinking that she truly inherited her father's psychic ability. Like father, like daughter. I hurried home and shared the incident with Sarah, who was visibly shocked. Fortunately, the house is now in her name, having been passed down as part of an inheritance when her father died. I immediately drove there, determined to investigate. While searching around my mother-in-law's childhood home, I found a patch that was paved with concrete. The rest is just dirt. This concrete wasn't there 5 years ago. With no other changes noticeable, I intuitively felt something might be beneath and called Sarah to explain. She had someone she knew break up the concrete with a jackhammer and then leave. Confused by the situation, her acquaintance shrugged as he left. I removed the broken concrete and dug into the earth beneath. How many hours had passed, I wasn't sure, but as the day turned to dusk, I continued digging. "This isn't it, is it?" I muttered to myself as I swung the shovel. A small crack sounded from the tip of the shovel. I hastily pulled it out and started digging by hand, uncovering more and more white objects. I dug frantically, forgetting myself. Of course, I was scared. I deeply hoped it was all a lie. However, when I saw it, I couldn't help but be certain. Sarah came running to me as soon as she and the police arrived.
Sally.
I had called her right after contacting the police, who had already cordoned off the area with tape. Justin was here. I managed to say with a trembling voice. Sarah gently spoke to me while rubbing my back.
But it's not confirmed it was Justin yet.
No, those bones are definitely Justin's. I found a wedding ring with our names engraved inside. Sarah covered her mouth instantly and started to cry. I couldn't hold back my tears hearing her sobs. The police immediately began their investigation. That day stretched into a long interrogation, and we weren't released until the next morning. I woke up my daughter, who had been sleeping in the police station's break room, and we went home. Within a week, the police had mostly figured out who the culprit was. Apparently, they found hairs not belonging to my husband with the excavated remains. Forensic analysis traced them back to a woman named Emily. For the first time in my life, I truly hated someone. Dark emotions swirled inside me. But the shocks from the police kept coming. Emily, the suspect, had been in a traffic accident at around the time I discovered Justin. She had been in critical condition for about a week, but had passed away just yesterday. Sarah shook her head. She hadn't been contacted because Emily had no identification on her. The case made national news. Then, more information came flooding in from around the country, leading to the arrest of a man Emily had been dating at the time. The news portrayed him as the direct murderer of my husband. He reportedly confessed to having been coerced into it by an acquaintance. Watching the news, I slammed the table in anger.
Calm down, please.
Sarah said, likely finding it hard to say anything more forceful. Of course, we had been informed by the police beforehand.
Mommy? I heard a loud noise. What happened?
It was already 11 p.m. Feeling guilty for waking my daughter, I regained my composure. I woke you up, sorry. Mommy just dropped my phone. Oh yeah, I still have her. I hugged my daughter tightly and let the tears flow. I'll protect her for both myself and Justin. I'll live with all my heart and soul. It's okay. Justin is in my heart. I hope he continues to watch over us from close by. With the three of us, we can surely overcome anything.
I know we were finally going on a trip after so long, but I'm really sorry. An emergency came up at work, so we have to cancel. I'll make it up to you later, I promise.
Today was the day we had reservations at a fancy hotel for our couple's getaway. Shaken by the call from Kevin, I asked him why. But he was clearly acting strange, dodging the conversation. Suspecting something was wrong, I immediately called our daughter, Nancy.
It figures. All right, I'll handle things from here. Mom, you stay put at home. I'll prepare and head over right away.
Okay, I'll be waiting. I had always felt something off about Kevin's actions. Even before he became a CEO, when he was younger, there was something peculiar about him. It's hard to shake the feeling of mistrust, but of course, as a CEO, it's natural for him to be at the company. I called Kevin again, urging him to come home soon. When Kevin returned home in the morning, he apologized loudly as soon as he entered the doorway.
I'm sorry.
What a frustrating person. Okay, look behind you for a second. When Kevin turned around, his face went pale the moment he saw me and the person next to me. My name is Laura, and I'm a 45-year-old stay-at-home mom. Up until 2 years ago, I lived with my husband, Kevin, and our daughter, Nancy, but recently, Nancy got married. As a working adult, Nancy and her husband, George, started living together, and now it's just Kevin and me at home. Kevin has been the CEO of a well-known company since his early 30s, which allowed us to live comfortably when Nancy was young. We often went on trips as a family of 3. Nancy also looked forward to traveling, and she closely monitored whether Kevin had properly made the hotel reservations. Kevin always took care of booking the hotels and paying for everything. Even when I offered to pay, he insisted on handling it. We were a couple who expressed gratitude to each other, and to outsiders, we must have seemed very close. We never forgot to show our appreciation, and I was diligent about managing our finances. However, this story is from when Nancy was still young. As Nancy entered middle school, Kevin's behavior began to change gradually. When I picked up Nancy from school and returned home, Kevin, who was usually there, was absent. I tried calling him several times, but he never answered. Sometimes he would come home and just fall asleep on the couch while messing with his smartphone. And that wasn't all. Even though he used to contribute financially to the household, he stopped completely. When Nancy wanted to have a wedding ceremony, Kevin was visibly displeased and dismissive. When she mentioned wanting children, he outright rejected the idea, assuming it would only lead to future hardships. As her parents, we should have wanted to support her, but Kevin refused to listen to Nancy's views and kept imposing his own.
You're young. You should be the ones to put up the money yourselves.
What kind of way is that to talk? It's unfair to Nancy. Just because they are young doesn't mean they can easily afford it. I argued this because I care about Nancy. But Kevin just scoffed and said,
Isn't it the truth? After all the hard work we've put into raising her, she should be supporting us now.
Does that mean we shouldn't support her, though? Even as I got angry, Kevin's views didn't change. Why is he always so negative? The old Kevin would never have said such things. In fact, he used to be very supportive, especially when Nancy was born. When Nancy was just a baby, he used to say that parenting should come before work. It might have been because many people around us were stay-at-home moms, but Kevin was very kind not just to me but also to Nancy. Even when work was hectic, Kevin always made sure to come home, and I remember how he found solace just by looking at Nancy's sleeping face. He used to prioritize loving her. What changed him so much? Thinking about it only gives me a headache, so I took up exercising as a hobby to build up my strength. Of course, Nancy was shocked by Kevin's rejection. Meanwhile, Kevin, who had been the one to reject her, was increasingly absent from home. At that time, I received a call from Nancy.
Sorry, Mom. I don't want Dad to know, but I'm pregnant. I can't come home anymore, so I thought I'd tell you in advance.
I see. I'm relieved. I thought you had given up because of what Dad said.
No way. I've always said I wanted children. I'll make sure to raise them well.
Yeah, I see. Do your best, Nancy, but don't overdo it, okay? You should rely on others sometimes.
Got it.
Nancy seemed happy as she replied. Thinking that I must not tell Kevin about this conversation, I decided that the best thing to do when he returned home was to act as usual and say nothing. Months have passed since Kevin stopped coming home. I received a message from Nancy with a photo. It was a report that her child had been born. The screen showed a cute child who looked just like Nancy. How cute. I'm really glad that the mother and child are safe. As I was crying, Kevin appeared out of nowhere and snatched my smartphone with a threatening tone.
She went and had a kid.
How can you say such a horrible thing? That's your own daughter. It's your first grandchild. Don't you think she's cute? Give me back my smartphone.
No way. I thought you and Nancy were up to something, but it seems I was right. What's next? A wedding? I won't approve it.
Kevin suddenly returned home and began to deny even Nancy's private life. I couldn't understand why he was so fixated, and I argued back. There are no parents who don't support their own daughter. Maybe you should think about your own role.
And when are you planning to start working? You've been a stay-at-home mom forever. I don't want to hear this from someone who hasn't made a move even after her daughter has grown up.
Ouch, that hits hard. The reason I've been a stay-at-home mom without working is that I was raising Nancy. While I acknowledge there is some truth to his point, I still intend to keep supporting Nancy. On the other hand, Kevin always complains without ever really being home. Even when he was at home, he would leave for work again as soon as possible. I, too, couldn't stand him because of this fact. Being in my 40s makes finding a job not so easy. When I discussed this with Nancy, she mentioned that upskilling is a popular term in the current job market. So, I decided to upskill myself to be able to work. With the help of online courses, I finally acquired some new skills. With Nancy's support, I was able to start working from home after a long hiatus. Seeing this, Kevin looked puzzled. He seemed shocked, probably because he thought I was still just a stay-at-home mom. I had never seen that expression on his face before, and I couldn't help but laugh. This is fine, right?
Right. I never thought I'd see the day you start working. That's why I'm surprised.
Despite his criticism about me not working, he still spoke in a condescending tone when I finally started working. Why does he only know how to talk down to me? Just as I was about to retort, Kevin made a suggestion.
Now that you're working, we can stay at fancy hotels, right?
What's he talking about now? Fancy hotels? Oh, the ones we talked about wanting to visit together back then. It was back when Kevin and I were newlyweds, not long after we started living together. At that time, traveling was my hobby. I had stayed at every local hotel and was being a bit demanding about wanting to go somewhere else. That's when I found out I was pregnant with Nancy and decided to prioritize parenting. Since then, there haven't been any trips for the three of us together. My days were filled with housework. Kevin was the CEO of a well-known company, and Nancy went to school. I had forgotten for a while, but I finally remembered. Truth be told, I still want to travel. I've been wanting to go on a trip for just the two of us for some time, so I was honestly very happy when he brought it up. But seeing how Kevin has been acting recently, I wonder if it was a good idea to go together after all. I thought this could be a chance to spend some quality time as a couple, but our relationship was still strained. I decided to tentatively make a suggestion to Kevin. Just to be safe, before any whims come up, I wanted to leave the decision on whether we go on a trip to Kevin. Shall we go together?
Yeah, don't you think it'd be nice for us to spend some time together as a couple after so long?
But what about the money? I can't get it ready right away.
Don't worry, I'll cover it.
That's it. Kevin is the CEO of a well-known company. I got so caught up in his poo attitude towards Nancy, but he still remembered about our previous plan to go on a trip as a couple. Excited, I decided to start preparing a week before the reservation date. It seemed there was no need to worry about money, but just to be safe, I decided to bring the money I had earned from working from home. However, the day before we were supposed to leave for the fancy hotel, Kevin suddenly called.
I know we were finally going on a trip after so long, but I'm really sorry. An emergency came up at work, so we have to cancel. I'll make it up to you later, I promise.
I was looking forward to it, but then Kevin canceled on the day of the reservation. Frustrated, I violently pulled out the clothes from the neatly packed carry-on bag, and tears overflowed. Does he think it's okay to blame everything on work? Even if I asked Kevin for a reason why we can't go, he always dodges the question and doesn't consult with me. I was really looking forward to it. I just don't get that man. I muttered quietly and then cried out loud. After a while, I managed to calm my emotions. Enough. I don't just want a marriage in name. I want a real partnership. I'm going to stop hoping and expecting us to be a cooperative couple. I called Nancy's cell phone. Then, I heard George's voice over the phone. Nancy and George were talking about something, but I couldn't make out what it was. However, Nancy seemed a bit frantic, and George was calm as they sounded like they were arguing. It must be about that issue. It seems the results of the task I had asked both Nancy and George to handle had come out. This matter apparently required Kevin and me to be together, so they decided to come over to our house on short notice. Before Nancy and George arrived, I tried to contact Kevin on his cell phone, but as expected, it went straight to voicemail. Hearing the familiar voicemail greeting, I couldn't help but feel irritated. After several redials, I finally got through to Kevin. It was Sunday. Even though he left early in the morning and it was already evening, Kevin hasn't returned home yet. Common reasons for divorce include debt or affairs. Despite my bad feeling, I asked Kevin, "Nancy is coming over today. Please come home early. There's something important we need to discuss."
Important discussion? Wait, I already told you I had to cancel our trip because of an emergency at work, didn't I?
Kevin seemed almost smugly amused. It's hard to believe a company with a full weekend off would be working on a Sunday. Additionally, it's known as a white company, which implies ethical business practices. They wouldn't be doing something so off base. But if we only listen to Kevin's side, even the white company claim could be a lie. If I could make a case, Kevin, as the president, would have to comply. I decided to discuss the information George had uncovered about Kevin. "I'm listening, but the whole story sounds off. Actually, you have a mountain of debt, don't you?"
What? Well, on what basis are you saying that? I don't understand.
From your reaction, it seems to be true. So, if you don't come home, I'll throw out all your belongings. I'm serious. I could hear my voice trembling. Honestly, I didn't want to believe the details Nancy and George had dug up. Yet, looking at Kevin's recent behaviors, the mention of debt now made sense. It's natural for a wife not to want to believe such things.
Please, don't throw away my things. I'm begging you.
No, if you're not going to face this properly, I'm considering divorce.
Wait, okay. I'll apologize. Just give me some time.
Apologies aren't enough. I'll believe it when I see action. I'll be waiting at home. After hanging up the phone, I could feel my body shaking terribly. Always being on the receiving end of harsh words or having to keep my cool has always been hard. Exhausted, I ended up sitting down at the front door. Kevin's company operates with full weekends off. Kevin, now the president, continues to improve its performance, so there shouldn't be any financial issues. But something must have changed along the way. Likewise, something must have changed between us as a couple, too. I didn't choose to live with Kevin just to feel this way. Just then, Nancy arrived at the house. Seeing me sitting dejected at the front door, she looked worried and leaned in.
"Mom, are you okay? George is here too. He's more capable than me, so let's get everything out in the open when Dad arrives."
Yo, sorry for showing you this pathetic side of me.
"Don't worry about it, it's okay. And today, I really wanted to eat your cooking. Do you think you're up to it now? Should I help?"
Nancy, now a mother herself, offered to take over the household chores for me. Ah, that's right. I was also desperate to live up to being a mother. I might have been too focused on my own struggles to see anything else, but it was all to protect my child. I thought Kevin would be home late at night or by morning, so we prioritized cooking dinner together for now. While preparing dinner with Nancy, I noticed that George hadn't shown up yet. Where's George?
George said he'd wait outside because of the situation with Dad. Plus, we can't just leave our child alone. So after dropping our child off at George's parents', he's waiting in the car.
Right, it's dangerous to leave a child alone.
Yeah, and we don't want to expose our child to our parents' arguments, right? George and I just want to live peacefully.
As I looked up startled, Nancy gave me a reassuring smile. Parents' arguments. Maybe Nancy has been enduring her share of struggles too. I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Then, I got a notification on my smartphone from Kevin, which was in my pocket. The message from Kevin said he would be home tomorrow morning.
I'll contact George. We need to prepare too.
I'll get ready as well. How about we all have a light dinner before that?
That sounds good.
Until Kevin arrived, Nancy, George, and I decided to get together and have dinner. George entered looking apologetic and apologized for the delay in making the formal marriage greeting. He's kind not to worry about the formalities. I felt warmed by his gesture. Seeing the dishes on the table, George looked surprised. When I asked him about it, he smiled happily and said he was amazed by how authentic the cooking was.
Moreover, it's sad that Kevin doesn't come home to eat such delicious food.
I'm used to it, really. As long as Nancy and you occasionally come to visit, that's enough for me.
Is that so? That's good to hear. I feel like I can fully confront Kevin now.
That's good. There's much I've turned a blind eye to. I'll count on both of you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Leave it to us.
They looked at each other and burst out laughing. They get along so well. Truthfully, I'm jealous of their good relationship. Back to the issue at hand, the main thing for us to clarify then was Kevin's true intentions. The mention of debt had shaken him, confirming my intuition was right. Also, the information the two had investigated was correct. That fact alone clung to my mind and saddened me. After dinner and clearing up, we held a strategy meeting for tomorrow morning. We planned to make it as smooth as possible, ensuring Kevin couldn't dodge the issues. I despise how Kevin seems to please others only to remain in a safe zone himself. After the meeting, we decided to sleep in the same room. In the morning, I received a message from Kevin saying, "I'll be there soon." I relayed the message to the others, and we took our planned positions. While I didn't want to think this would be the end, the fact was that we have been struggling up until this point. Even if it were to come to divorce, I have no regrets about ending this marriage relationship. Still, I occasionally think that maybe I could have handled things better. Maybe if I had dealt with this earlier, we might not have had to struggle so much. If it weren't for Nancy and George's comforting presence, I probably wouldn't have been able to make this decision. As a parent and as an individual, I feel pathetic. Then, just then, Kevin burst into the house. He started apologizing as soon as he entered the front door. The door remained wide open, and he was shouting so loudly that the neighbors could probably hear.
I'm sorry, Laura. I'll book a fancy hotel again, and we'll go together.
This must have been his way of thinking. Unfortunately, his words didn't touch my heart at all. Feeling out of place, as if his voice reached no one, Kevin repeatedly called my name while searching the house. But I wasn't there, because I was in the car that Nancy and George were using.
Now's the time, Mom.
That's right, I'll do my best.
Yeah, go for it.
With Nancy's words of encouragement, I got out of the car. Kevin appeared at the front door, about to re-enter the house. Hey, wait. When I called out to him, he turned around with a startled yelp. I took a deep breath before speaking again. I need to talk to you, Kevin.
Talk? Can't we just reschedule the trip sometime?
Well, okay, look behind you for a second.
Turn around.
Kevin turned towards me. Then he saw Nancy and George standing behind me. However, when Kevin saw George, he looked terribly frightened.
You are.
Long time no see, Kevin. I'm married to Nancy, you know. Did you forget that?
No, I know.
Where did all his bluster go? George greeted him with a smile and offered his hand for a handshake. But Kevin brushed the hand away and shouted in anger.
What happened to my request? You said I'd know the results soon, and then nothing.
Oh, is that so? You've been sneaking around, trying to strike it rich from morning till night.
What are you talking about? I haven't heard anything about that.
Of course, we have proof. Laura was worried about you, but as Nancy said, you're just a man chasing quick riches.
Then George pulled out several credit cards he had somehow confiscated. Given Kevin's pursuits of quick riches, he ended up taking loans whose amounts were too high to be repayable.
Let's end this. I don't think you can fix anything now. You should apologize to Laura first, like a man should.
Kevin looked like it was the end of the world and muttered something under his breath. Then he apologized in a barely audible whisper. Thanks to George, a skilled attorney, Kevin's debts were uncovered. I conveyed to George that there was no point in continuing to live together any longer.
That's right.
Then George proceeded with the arrangements. The debts on Kevin's credit cards had to be reduced. However, I thought it was important for him to take responsibility, so I informed him that I would not cooperate.
Should we proceed with the divorce then?
Yes, please.
Understood. I will review the divorce papers and then discuss them again with Kevin as your representative, if that's okay with you?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Though I had given my consent as a representative, George mentioned that he would also obtain consent from the person concerned later on. After that, Kevin started doing cleaning jobs. He said he was paying the price for having freely spent money as a CEO. He has some nerve saying that, given it's all his own doing. We also decided to have one last discussion before submitting our divorce papers.
I don't want to split up.
Kevin kept throwing tantrums right to the end. But it was time for him to stop the futile resistance. I believe it's absolutely wrong for anyone to ever cause trouble for others. And it's better to speak up, rather than keeping secrets until they inevitably spill out. Money is so convenient that it can also bring one's life crashing down. After that, Kevin and I got divorced. I started living alone, something I had long wished for, but it was lonely after always living with someone. When Nancy heard this, she came to me.
Mom, why don't we live together?
Are you sure?
Of course.
Nancy happily agreed. Nancy and George greeted me, along with their little daughter, who was born when I was in the midst of all the legal procedures. Her tiny hand gripped my finger tightly. Oh, how adorable she is, so precious. Her big, innocent eyes locked on me, and I felt deeply grateful. Seeing this, Nancy and George smiled happily.
Mom, I have a surprise for you.
A surprise.
Yes, can you feel my stomach?
I could slightly feel Nancy's belly twitch. Could it be a second one?
Yes, apparently it was already on the way when we were planning to expose Dad's debts.
That's wonderful. I'm happy to have the chance to be involved in childcare again.
Yes, we're counting on you for a while, Mom.
Sure, leave it to me. I replied happily, with Nancy smiling beside me. George also seemed eager to join the conversation.
Of course, I'll help out too.
His display of defiance was quite unusual, causing Nancy to laugh amusingly. George is serious not just in work, but also in childcare. And so, Nancy was busy preparing for the birth of their second child. Not wanting to be outdone by the young couple, I decided to start yoga. As you age, maintaining physical strength can be challenging. If you're going to be raising grandchildren, you need to ensure you're physically up to the task. Mindful of finances and everyday life, I'm committed to living happily and cooperatively.
It was our anniversary that day. But my husband, Harry, didn't come home until the morning because he said he was busy with work. Spending our anniversary alone was a first for me. I ate the cold cake I had prepared, cutting it into small pieces while watching a lively variety show. Maybe he's cheating. With that thought, the cake I brought to my mouth tasted like sand. If he really is cheating, I couldn't quite tell if I was supposed to feel sad or angry. After supporting each other for so long, to think of betrayal just as we were starting a new chapter of our lives together, I wondered what kind of feelings I should harbor. One thing was for sure, what is Harry thinking at his age? If he is cheating, I'll definitely make him regret it. Alone in the quiet night, I stared at the half-eaten cake and made up my mind. Looking for something that could be definitive proof of his infidelity, I rummaged through Harry's room and saw several documents sticking out from the bookshelf. Casually pulling a few out, I found something unexpected. A divorce paper, and this is... What I found was a divorce form and a marriage form, only filled out with Harry's name. I almost tore up those two papers in the moment, but quickly calmed myself down. I will never forgive you. I'll make sure you regret what you've done. My name is Emily. 23 years ago, when I gave birth to my son, I was young and had planned to go back to work after some of the early childcare, but my husband, Harry, didn't support the idea of me resuming work. In Harry's view, it was ingrained that men should work outside and women should take care of the home. It would be a lie to say I had no desire to be a stay-at-home mom at the time. So I accepted his suggestion and quit my job. My son's name is Leon. Living up to his strong name, Leon grew into a kind and sturdy young man. He graduated from the university he wished to attend and secured a job, which was a relief to me. Once Leon moved out to live on his own, our home became a place that evoked a mix of loneliness and a sort of happiness at sudden moments. I usually sit on the sofa where Leon used to sit and read a book. I read mystery novels that I couldn't concentrate on when I was busy, and when I tire of reading, I close my eyes and sink deep into the sofa. The curtains, left open, flutter in the gentle breeze, carrying a faint scent of osmanthus. Ah, it's that season again. It was around this time of the year that I married Harry. The autumn is starting, isn't it? In the quiet living room, I find myself smiling at no one in particular. One holiday, I was cleaning the entrance early in the morning. The air was crisp and getting a bit cold, but because I was still dressed for summer, I ended up feeling quite chilled. When I returned inside, Harry was about to close the bathroom door in his pajamas, so I asked quickly, "Is bread okay for breakfast?" To which he responded with an ambiguous, "Oh." I placed the sliced bread on the cutting board, topped it with divided ham and cheese, and threw it into the toaster. Just as I put the kettle on the stovetop, Harry's phone, left on the dining table, suddenly started vibrating without any warning. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The phone persisted, as if calling out to its owner. I wasn't particularly concerned as I took the toast, now lightly browned, out of the toaster and laid it on the plates at the table. The phone was still ringing. Its screen was turned down, and I didn't feel like looking at it, though I couldn't rule out it being a work call. After a while, the ringing stopped, and at the same time, Harry came back from the bathroom and began washing his hands in the kitchen, which I immediately admonished. "Hey, don't wash your hands in the kitchen."
Huh? Oh.
Harry seemed groggy and barely coherent in the conversation, drying his hands on his pajama shirt before taking his seat. I handed him the morning paper I had retrieved from the mailbox while cleaning the entrance earlier. Harry cracked a smile and said, "Thank you." I've always liked his appreciation for these little things. Then I took my seat and sipped my steaming hot coffee. By the way, your phone was ringing non-stop earlier. Who was it from?
Huh?
Harry quickly closed the newspaper he was spreading and glanced swiftly at the phone screen he had placed face down on the table. Then, with a panicked look, he said to me,
Hey, you didn't look at my phone, did you?
"Huh? No, but who was it from?"
Who? I'm in the middle of an important work discussion. There's some info I'd rather keep private.
Harry said that with a slightly annoyed expression as he quickly stuffed toast into his mouth, and he retreated to his room without much attention to the newspaper. Why is he angry, I wonder? As I pondered, placing the dishes in the sink, my phone rang. I picked up my continuously charging phone from the kitchen corner, carefully unplugged it, and held it to my ear. The call was from my son, Leon. "What's up?" I asked, and Leon replied, "Just checking if you're okay." I could imagine him blushing over the phone. Isn't he supposed to have a girlfriend instead of calling his mom on a holiday morning? I was about to ask, but then I thought about Harry's earlier behavior and decided to tell Leon about it as it happened.
That's probably Dad cheating on me.
Leon joked, and I couldn't help but laugh. Afterward, we talked about how Leon was struggling with cooking for himself since living alone, and I promised to email him my personal recipes later. After a bit of thought, I started typing the recipe for minestrone on my smartphone, a favorite of both Harry and Leon. Use fresh tomatoes, not canned. The soup, which uses some consommé but primarily relies on the flavor of vegetables, was first praised by Harry as delicious when I made it at the beginning of our marriage. While I was frantically typing on my unfamiliar smartphone, Harry silently left the house. I heard the front door close. The sound of the car engine revving up and driving away gave me an odd sense of unease. Through a gap in the curtains, I just stared at the taillights of Harry's car as he drove off. It was another day. That day was our anniversary. But Harry didn't come home until morning, saying he was busy with work. It was my first experience spending our anniversary alone, eating the cold cake I had prepared while watching a lively variety show. Maybe he's cheating? With that thought, the cake I tasted felt like sand. If he really was cheating, I wasn't sure whether to feel sad or angry. Having supported each other for so long, and just as we were about to start a new life, just the two of us, what feelings should I harbor if this was indeed betrayal? One thing was certain: what was Harry thinking at his age? If he is cheating, I'll definitely make him suffer. In the quiet night, alone, I stared at the half-eaten cake and made my decision. That was the day my plan began. When Harry took a shower, I immediately checked his WhatsApp on his smartphone. The screen was locked, but after seeing how Harry unlocked his pattern lock a few times, I deciphered it was a very simple spiral pattern within a few days. Unaware, Harry carelessly left his poorly secured smartphone around the house, giving me the chance to sneak peeks over several days. I searched for any incriminating evidence of infidelity. I proceeded carefully so as not to alert Harry, and finding suspicious conversation content, I struggled not to show the tightening in my chest and the quiet anger rising within. I maintained a poker face as I served dinner as usual. Tonight's dish was minestrone, a favorite of both Harry and me. Usually, I use fresh tomatoes, but tonight I used canned tomatoes that were on sale from abroad, and I added more consommé than usual.
This tastes better than usual, this minestrone.
Really? I'm glad. I smiled. Several years ago, when Harry was warned by the doctor during a health check to cut down on his salt intake, I took it seriously and subtly reduced the salt in our meals. However, today, I loaded the food with as much artificial seasoning and salt as possible, drawing out only the flavors. Throughout the meal, Harry kept checking his phone. While I sipped the soup, I stared coldly at him, but he didn't seem to notice. You seem very busy lately. I'm worried about your health.
Well, there's work, but there's also socializing with colleagues. I've been going out for drinks more often with clients lately.
I see.
Honestly, there are days I don't really want to go, but it's unavoidable. It's part of networking. I guess I felt a bit more relaxed since Leon started living on his own.
A bit more relaxed. I mulled over this in my mind. Is it normal to feel relaxed and start cheating once your child is independent? I held back from retorting and said something I didn't mean. That's tough. After dinner, while pretending to be engrossed in a not-so-interesting variety show, I continued the routine of sneakily checking Harry's phone as soon as he went to take a shower. By gradually checking his phone interactions, I discovered he was involved with 2 women. While Harry was at work, I decided to record details about these 2 women in a notebook. I could hear the chirping of birds in the distance. On a Wednesday, under a clear blue sky, I sat pondering, clicking my pen repeatedly. One of Harry's affairs, a woman named Marissa, appeared to be the receptionist at a business partner's company. Some of their messages were genuinely work-related, but given the frequency of Harry's messages, she seemed to be the main affair. Marissa is 27 years old. Considering Harry is 51, I wondered if he was genuinely taken seriously by her, and it even felt pathetic. Yet, the image of Harry leering at a young woman who could be his daughter made my skin crawl with disgust. The other woman, recently met, named Lydia, seemed to have met Harry while out drinking with colleagues. She is a divorced woman who contacts Harry excessively often, sending messages and calls incessantly without waiting for his reply, which I found quite bothersome. Harry seemed to want to end things with Lydia, but it appeared he couldn't manage to break it off cleanly, and their exchanges were filled with confusion. As I was searching for something decisive to prove his infidelity, I rummaged through Harry's room. Casually pulling out a few papers from the bookshelf, I found something unexpected. A divorce form, and this is. What I found were a divorce form and a marriage registration form filled out only with Harry's name. I nearly tore those 2 papers up in a moment, but quickly calmed myself. Perhaps Harry wants to marry the young woman, Marissa. However, the situation with Lydia, who is divorced, seems complicated, and Harry himself must be pondering what to do. His selfishness, affecting both me and his lovers, absolutely infuriated me. I will never forgive you. I'll make sure you regret what you've done. The next Sunday, I sat in a cafe near the station, sipping black iced coffee, squinting as if to confirm the pounding of my heart. As the automatic door of the cafe opened, a strong scent of perfume spread inside, and a woman in a purple dress with long blonde hair stood before me, greeted slightly, then took her seat.
Nice to meet you. I'm Lydia.
Thank you for coming.
I was a bit surprised, but it's okay. Yes.
Lydia glanced at the menu briefly before flagging down a passing waiter to order an iced coffee. She seemed a bit uneasy, wiping her hands on her lap and rubbing them several times. Despite Lydia's flashy appearance, she seemed rather timid and unsettled, I thought. Did you know Harry is married?
Yes, that's right. He said things aren't going well with his wife, and maybe. Was I being deceived all along?
Lydia, I'm considering divorcing Harry.
Oh.
I continued gently, careful not to arouse any suspicion in Lydia. My marriage to Harry was nearly at a breaking point, and the divorce could be filed at the office any moment now. I pulled out the divorce form with Harry's name filled in from my bag and laid it in front of Lydia. Lydia's eyes widened as she stared at it, then she fixed her gaze on me. I have no lingering feelings for Harry, but I can't forgive the fact that he cheated. Don't you think so too, as a woman?
That makes sense, yes.
So, I want proof that you are serious about Harry. After I file this divorce form, I want you to file a marriage registration form with Harry. Lydia looked shocked and was speechless for a moment. See, these are Harry's actual handwriting, aren't they? He must have been serious about marrying you, That's why he prepared this. Lydia covered her mouth with both hands, then exclaimed loudly, "I'm going to be happy," and I forced a smile, though it felt grotesque. Harry really got himself tangled up with a strange woman. Lydia happily hugged the marriage form and said, "I'll have a relative witness the form before I submit it," and then she left. Just before she left, Lydia asked me seriously if Leon and I could witness the marriage form, which wiped the fake smile off my face, but I politely declined, and she twisted her lips into a smile, saying, "Surely not?" After submitting the divorce form, I called Leon. I told him about Harry's affair, the divorce form submission, and how I had nearly forced Lydia to file a marriage registration form with Harry. Leon's loud laughter came through the phone. Hearing that laughter, any remnants of guilt in my heart seemed to dissolve.
Mom, you really do some crazy things. But I think it's good. I won't see Dad anymore. I didn't think he was that kind of person.
Thank you. Hearing your voice made me feel relieved.
Is there anything I can do? I'm here to help if there's anything.
I declined his offer and thanked Leon, then hung up and decided to take the train back to my parents' house. When I arrived home after transferring trains, my elderly parents greeted me with surprised faces. My father, who had retired, had taken up gardening near our house, and unbeknownst to me, it had grown significantly, with a large container of vegetables like those used by wholesalers placed in front of our house. When things had settled down, my parents served coffee, and I began to tell them everything and discussed what to do next. At first, my parents were very upset and couldn't believe Harry had cheated, but eventually they accepted the situation and suggested concrete plans like moving back home to live with them. My father, with a calm expression, said, "Leon is no longer a child, Emily. You should do what you feel is right." And I was happy that he agreed I could live at their home. A few days later, Harry contacted me after finishing an overnight job. I had already verified with his workplace that this overnight job was a lie, and he was probably staying at the younger mistress, Marissa's house. When Harry returned home to find nobody there, he called me, puzzled.
The house isn't clean, and the laundry is still hanging. What's going on?
"Oh, I called your office, and they said you were on leave. I thought maybe you were cheating somewhere."
What? Hey, what are you talking about?
I spat back, knowing everything, and told him about all that had happened. From the other end of the phone, I could visualize Harry's agitation. My mother, realizing I was on the phone with Harry, stopped cooking and looked worried, so I smiled reassuringly at her, though she grimaced in difficulty.
Anyway, why don't you come home? Let's talk. Suddenly talking about divorce. I don't understand.
That's true. When unexpected things unfold surprisingly fast, anyone would be confused and flustered, and then feel choked up. If you hadn't betrayed me, I could have lived without ever knowing this feeling. Year after year, as we endured the hot summer and began to feel a hint of coolness, the scent of osmanthus wafting from nowhere reminded me of Harry and my anniversary. We started living together with the beginning of fall, but this year it seems to have become the season of endings. I find myself thinking these romantic thoughts.
Anyway, come back home. We'll talk then. It's all right.
Not understanding what he meant by, "It's all right," I couldn't help but chuckle wryly. Without hesitation, I started making the next arrangements by contacting Harry's 2 mistresses. Then, next Sunday, there was Lydia, Harry, Marissa, and me. An unusual scene unfolded with the 4 of us sitting around a table. I had lured Lydia to our home under the pretext of discussing the division of assets when I divorced Harry. As for Marissa, I had never contacted her before, so I used the number I took from Harry's phone to say directly, "I'm Harry's wife. There's something we need to discuss. Can you come over to our house?" Lydia, sitting next to Marissa, seemed distracted by her presence and greeted her tentatively with, "Nice to meet you." Marissa, understanding why she was there, kept her lips tight and looked down. Being the youngest there, Marissa nervously gripped the thin lace cardigan she was wearing. It was a pleasantly sunny autumn day, not cold, but Marissa rubbed her arms over the cardigan several times. "I'll just get straight to the point, Marissa, Lydia. You two have been having an affair with my husband, right?" Lydia, with her flamboyant makeup, widened her eyes and glanced at Marissa. Harry, looking pale and being as quiet as a mouse, kept his head down and stared at the grain of the table. "So, the thing is, he deceived both of you about divorcing someday to remarry. Both of you simultaneously." Neither Lydia nor Marissa knew that the other was also Harry's mistress until they were gathered here. Marissa, likely expecting to push me towards divorce, was shocked to find not only another mistress but that Harry had already filed a marriage registration with Lydia.
What? You're already divorced from your wife and married to someone else?
Wait a minute. What's going on? You were cheating with someone else too?
Wait. Don't all talk at once. My head's about to explode. Let's just calm down for a moment. Emily, get everyone something to drink.
"What? I'm not your wife anymore? You make it yourself." Stunned by my response, Harry clutched his chest and grimaced in pain. After a few seconds, he began apologizing profusely with his forehead touching the living room floor. What's the point of such a cheap apology?
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
I'm kind of over it, but you'll still have to pay a decent amount of alimony.
Know that.
I smiled and continued. "I'll also be claiming damages from you, Marissa, and Lydia. Of course, I've already consulted a lawyer, and if you two decide to sue Harry for damages, that's your business and doesn't involve me." Afterward, Marissa coldly berated him, and Lydia looked around, unsure of what to do, restless in her actions.
So the story about his wife cheating and being close to divorce was a lie too.
Know that.
To think I shared such a boring man and such boring moments.
Marissa cradled her head in self-mockery and sighed softly. From a distance, I observed Harry and the others, thinking how ugly it all was. There were still things I needed to do. I felt that my life would not be pleasant unless I properly demanded damages from Harry and his mistresses. Marissa, perhaps indifferent by then, readily agreed to the compensation claims facilitated through the lawyer. Marissa, as she declared, also demanded alimony from Harry, who until the end hoped I would agree to a reduction in the claim, but I insisted on full payment without mercy. Harry decided to sell the house he owned based on Lydia's suggestion and use the proceeds for the payment. This way, Harry managed to prepare the alimony but lost his place to live and had to move to Lydia's parents' house. Although the marriage registration with Lydia was submitted without his consent, if he were to revoke this as well, he risked Lydia demanding alimony, and it seemed Harry no longer had the financial leeway for that. I later heard from relatives that since living with Lydia's parents, Harry had been under considerable restraint. Since their remarried life began from an affair, Lydia worried Harry might cheat again and would call his workplace daily to confirm he went to work and insisted he come straight home after work. Moreover, her family home is in a very rural area, lacking even street lights and corner stores along the way home from the station. On weekends, Harry was used to fix up the old family home and was exploited by his elderly in-laws, completely losing his freedom. It was rather pitiful that Harry wasn't even allowed to have a smartphone, and he was only given the bare minimum pocket money. Marissa and I completely cut ties with Harry and each returned to our own lives. Since Marissa was a business contact of Harry's, the affair became a rumor at his workplace too, and I heard through the grapevine that he was feeling isolated there. But all that was no longer my concern. I was now relaxing back at my parents' home, helping with the farm work. Before I was married, I used to help my father with his hobby of gardening, and now we were producing enough to sell to the local supermarket, keeping me busy and fulfilled. Occasionally, Leon visits home. On some evenings, we dine together, and I decided to make minestrone. Using the tomatoes my parents harvested at the end of summer before they spoiled, throwing them into a large pot. "You make such sophisticated dishes," my mother remarked curiously as she watched me cook, but I assured her with a smile, "I'm sure you'll like it." I laid the finished dish on the table, and seeing everyone enjoy it made me smile uncontrollably. The soup, low in salt, but rich in vegetable flavors, might not have been the most stimulating, but it felt like it gently merged into our bodies.